We have a pretty big report that dropped this week. This is from Republican insider Charles Gasparino of Fox Business Network. So the Independent says here, Trump in fragile mood and may drop out of 2020 race if poll numbers don't improve, GOP insiders tell Fox News. Donald Trump may drop out of the 2020 presidential race if he believes he has no chance of winning, a Republican Party operative reportedly told Fox News. The claim comes in a report in the president's favorite news outlet that cites a number of GOP insiders who are concerned about Mr. Trump's re-election prospects and amid abysmal polling numbers. All right, so right up front, I'm going to tell you, don't buy it. I don't buy it. If you think Trump is going to drop out, I would say you don't see what is readily apparent and incredibly obvious about the man. The man is deeply narcissistic, self-obsessed, power-hungry, and when a guy like that is in a position like he's in, President of the United States, he doesn't just go quietly into the night. In fact, I think it's much more likely the exact opposite, which is, let's say he loses, he might put up a stink like, I don't believe it, fake news, fake numbers. There's rampant election fraud, widespread election fraud. How many illegals voted? I think a lot of illegals may have voted. And so he would try to hang on to power come hell or high water. That's what I think is more likely. So this just doesn't jive with his character. You know, I think that secretly he knows he's down, but the idea that he would drop out and come up with an excuse, I just don't buy it. And, you know, Charles Gasparino had a tweet thread about this, and he was saying that these are the whispers going on in Republican circles. But guys, honestly, I think it's wishful thinking from other Republicans, because they were down on his chances in 2016. They're really down on his chances in 2020. And I think they're just hoping that this will happen. They're just hoping that this is the case, because they think that there are a lot of establishment Republicans who think that he's going to tank the ship of the entire GOP. That's what Trump will do. And so it's kind of like a Hail Mary pass in their own minds to stay viable, to think like, oh, maybe he'll drop out and he could be switched at the last second, and, you know, then we can be more competitive. But by the way, if let's say hypothetically for a second he were to drop out, whoever would replace him would do worse. See, Republicans are in a lose-lose position right now because Trump is not very popular according to the polls, but he does have that hardcore 35% base that will never abandon him. Whoever you replace him with is not going to be able to cobble together a coalition that eclipses that of Trump's. So it's like you either, as of right now, the dilemma is you lose with Trump or you lose bigger with somebody else. But I think the thing is, the other Republicans, they just want to save the branding for the future. See, that's a little bit of a nefarious aspect that is not really talked about often, which is you do have Republicans who are like largely silent in the Trump era. Some of them are the loud, aggressive Trump defenders, but a lot of the Republican senators and Congress people, they're not loud, aggressive defenders of Trump. They just kind of sit on the sidelines. Why? So that when the Trump era is done, they can step out into polite society and say, me? No, I was never a big backer of him anyway, bro. Look, see, go check the things I said about him. I didn't say much. So this way, they get polite society and mainstream media circles are more willing to accept the rebranding and view the Republican Party as like, oh, you have the serious Republicans and then you have big bad Trump. And we're cool with the serious Republicans, just not with big bad Trump. When, of course, the silliness of it all is that the so-called serious Republicans would vote with Trump 9 out of 10 times or 10 out of 10 times. The only difference is the so-called serious Republicans don't do crazy unfiltered tweet threads and aren't unhinged and shooting from the hip and, you know, haven't totally abandoned decorum and civility. That'd be the only difference. So there's this branding exercise that's going on. But really, again, the heart of this story, I think, is BS. I believe that he's in a fragile mood. I believe that in his heart of hearts, he knows that he's down. I do not believe for a second that, you know, if he thinks there's no way he can win, that he'll step down. Although that would be not a bad move for him in terms of his legacy, let's say. because then he'll get to say, for however long he's around post his presidency, I would have won, but I think we did our job wonderfully, and I wanted to step down while we were already on top, while we were already number one. I could see him saying that. Again, I don't think somebody with his massive ego and extreme narcissism could bring himself to step down. I think he might brainwash himself into believing, oh, this is just like 2016, 2020 is going to be the same, we're going to shock the world. But in terms of a long-term play for him, that would fare better than losing to Joe Biden, who can barely talk, and Joe Biden gets over 350 electoral votes. So I think it's wishful thinking from Republicans, but I think it would be one of his better plays in terms of saving face. It would help him save face if he steps down and says, like, listen, we did a wonderful job. Before the virus hit, we had the number one numbers across the board. And now we think it's time to step down. I don't think he's going to do it, but that would be probably the best play he has. And as of right now, he has no good options because the country is imploding.